Let's find ourselves laying comfortably all the way down onto our backs. Start to feel the muscles of the back releasing, opening. There's a tremendous release going on. And our intention today is the idea of deep release. So in different poses that we're approaching today, I'm going to invite us to start off at level 3. So that's just wherever you naturally fall into the pose. And then eventually I'll invite you to reach level 2 and level 1. And what that means is finding a deeper release, 2 more levels. In different poses, that could mean different things. Sometimes it's a muscular release, going just slightly deeper. And sometimes it's more of a tension quality. It's our brain just relaxing a little bit, or just the energy around us, our thoughts, our emotions relaxing just a little bit. So when I invite us to go down those steps from 3 to 2 and from 2 to 1, we find a way for us to relax even more profoundly, more fully than how we started off with, whatever that means in that given pose. And so here, even starting with the Shavasana, whatever your natural pose became, see if you can drop it down a level to 2. So what does deep release look like or feel like right here? And see if you can find one more level of release, whatever that is. Notice how freely the breath flows. It's not necessarily a bellow breath. It's not the hugest airbag breath we've ever had. But it's so relaxed that our muscles just are moving themselves peacefully to bring us and feed us that oxygen. So from this beautiful place of relaxation, we start to bring the bottoms of our feet together. The knees are still opening wide, essentially finding a nice cobbler's pose from the ground. Sometimes it's nice to be in complete stillness here. Sometimes the first thing I do is start to tilt one knee down and then the other, kind of setting up a rocking horse thing going on in my hips. I just need usually 3 or 4 of those before that sacrum feels ready to release. And eventually finding that beautiful stillness. The arms can absolutely simply stay as they are, but if it feels good in the body, maybe start bringing the elbows up overhead, bent arms or straight arms, whatever's working out for us. Feel how this gives the opportunity for the shoulders to add into the stretch just a hair. If the arms are straight, start to find each elbow. And then we'll begin a slow circle of our arms held onto the elbows just like they are. So first start off with both elbows tracing their way to the right. Eventually, when you're pulling the left arm immediately to the right side, pause at that angle. That angle feels so nice as a tug and a stretch on that left shoulder. And then continue on slowly. The hands make their way through the circle, all the way down. And once again, when you get to the other side, directly to the left, stay. Enjoying that right shoulder stretch. And arms continue to circle until they're up overhead. Release the elbows for just a moment to feel the arms relax. That was level 3 of the arm circles. In a moment, we're going to head to level 2. Remember, our keyword is deeper. So sometimes that means pulling the shoulder in a different way, or maybe our shoulder is pressing down away from the direction of the ear to go deeper, or maybe it's a different energetic deepening like we discussed earlier. So let's begin to circle. Eventually until the elbows being pulled, pulling the left shoulder into the stretch. And so find a deepening, whatever that means. Is shoulder pressing away from ear? Is the breath deepening? Is the mind relaxing more? And continue to circle down and around to the other side, where we pause and find level 2 deepening. And circle up overhead. Release for a moment, giving the hands a break. And when you're ready, we're going to find one last level of deepening here. Circle over, arms pulling to the right. What does deeper mean now? And continue down, all the way over to the left. And releasing up overhead, stretch the arms to a long angle, even if that has to go wide. And then continue a circle all the way down like we're making a snowman. Pick up the left knee, flipping it over to the right knee. This will end us up in a fetal position for just a moment. Take a beautiful inhale. A relaxing exhale. And then we press our way up enough that we can set blocks underneath us. So the blocks are going to be essentially in a nice long line. If you don't have 2 blocks, you can use your pillow for a second block to help support the head. And we're going to make our way down. We do want our head to be supported. So if it's a little bit too low when you go down, just rise back up and scoot your hips a little bit lower. So you're at that perfect spot with a slight arch in your back, a nice opening to the heart, and feel how the shoulders are rolling open off of the blocks. So just let the arms be relaxed at the sides. The legs, you have a few options. Long legs can feel so nice. You can return back to the cobbler pose. Or you could even plant the feet and let the knees fall inward toward one another. There's no right pose, there's no wrong pose. We're finding whatever pose, whatever variation is deep for us today. Feel that lift of the rib cage up. And take a few breaths to notice how the ribs affect the breath in this pose. Finding a level 2, what way can we relax deeper into this shape? And slipping right into level 1. It's that deep brainwave. It's the calm emotions. It's the open muscles. Sometimes when I hit level 1, I ask myself, why do I ever leave this place? It's so peaceful, so full of potential, and yet requiring nothing. So enjoy 3 more luxuriating breaths at level 1. Whenever your 3rd breath finishes, use your hand to scoop the right knee over to the left this time, falling off the blocks, back into our fetal position. Enjoy a beautiful inhale, nice exhale, and then use the hand behind you to help push the blocks off the side, so you can return to be on your back. Once you make your way there, take your knees into the chest. And let's find a way to do knee circles that feel very releasing on the back. So there's many ways to do circles. You could do clockwise circles. You could do the shape of infinity. You can have one knee do a circle and then the other. Just find a variation that helps your body continue to find a deeper release through the spine. Eventually working our way towards stillness. We begin to take a nice twist, so allow the arms to open out to each direction, and the knees will start to tilt over to the left side. You have an option to place a block under that left thigh to prevent it from going too deep. But if that's not needed today, no pressure, no forcing you to have it. Listen to how the spine responds to this. This is level 3 that we're at right now. It's the initial part of a stretch where it's not 100% comfortable yet. You feel lots of things going on. So as we're heading toward deep breaths, see if we can sink toward level 2, whatever that means for you in this shape. Ultimately finding level 1. This is the most our body could relax into this shape tonight. Take another wonderful inhale. With the exhale, the spine starts to return down onto the ground. And we prepare our body. Sometimes it's mentally first, but we prepare ourselves for the second side. Heading there when your muscles feel ready. Feel the breath becoming more rhythmic. That rhythmic breath is a sign that we're relaxing into it, heading toward level 2. And eventually find a deeper release mentally, emotionally, whatever that is. Heading toward that peaceful paradise. So feel your breath, taking another beautiful inhale. And exhale starts to bring us back onto the earth with our hips. Planting the feet, let the knees do windshield wipers, left and right a few times. Find the speed that feels best for your body right now. And then ultimately, the knees will come back into the chest and rock around as a nice massage. Beautiful. We allow the feet to plant close to the glutes. We take a moment just to do a brief bridge pose to feel our muscles have a small contraction and then that wonderful release afterward. So hands are on the floor next to our bodies. Pick up the hips and then continue to roll up one vertebrae at a time. Pause for at least the duration of one nice inhale and a long exhale. One more inhale. And use that deflation of the lungs to help us roll back onto the ground. Beautiful. From here, we're ready to rise up. So you can either roll through the fetal position and press your way up, or rock directly up to sit. We'll swing our legs around and come down onto our bellies. I recommend having one block close by. And from here, we settle into a Sphinx pose. The elbows can be planted. And I like the block as a way to rest the forehead down if that feels like the highest good for the cervical spine. So usually I'll use the tall height for the block. At least I'll start there. Sometimes when I start heading toward level 2 and level 1, sometimes that's the area where I'll adjust. And notice how you don't have to be holding yourself up muscularly. You can set your skeletal system up such that your muscles just kind of melt all around the joints. So perhaps this is a good time for level 2. That could mean a new height block if you want to try it out. That could mean something else, finding a way to find a deeper expression. As we find ourselves looking toward level 1, sometimes that means another height block adjustment. Sometimes it's fun to scoot the block all the way away and just let the head dangle. So you can play with it, find what feels the best in the neck today. Or you can find another way to slip down to level 1, whatever that means for us. And lifting the head up enough that we can scoot the block away if it's still there. Widen the elbows, allowing the hands to stack one on top of the other. And then the forehead rests down onto those stacked palms. Once you've got the head comfortably resting down like that, your right knee swivels out to the side and starts sliding up just as close as it wants to get toward the direction of your shoulder. Feel anything that wants to release in this hip. The hip is notorious for emotions, for holding on to the hard things we've been through in life. So if things are emotional, perhaps today our way to get deeper here into level 2 is to actually be with the emotion rather than constantly pushing it off. Letting ourselves be with the body a little bit deeper. As we're here in this shape, if you ever want to play with one side of the head resting down, you can play with that. Gentle stretching for the neck. Just try to make sure you're making it equal for both sides if you do that. So spinning about the same amount of time one side and eventually the other. And perhaps as we're sinking toward the direction of level 1, maybe that looks like us paying attention to the breath. Feeling the belly breathe into the earth, getting that gentle massage for our intestines. Try to slow down the breath for 3 more cycles. And after the 3rd cycle, this leg starts to make its way along the back of the mat. And the 2nd knee begins to head up for its turn. Does the neck feel like it needs an adjustment? Would we like to go back to the neutral spot first? Maybe the head adjusts, twisting to the other side. As we're heading to level 2, maybe this is that level of emotions. Doesn't have to be, but if so, what wants to be present with us right now? What has been trying to seek for our attention? What attention can we give at this moment? Perhaps once again, level 3 is the level of the breath. Feeling our belly breathe into Mother Earth. Enjoying that kind, rocking, massaging sensation. Take those final 3 breaths for this shape. Only sliding the leg back to its starting spot after that 3rd exhale. With the head at neutral on the palms, pause for 3 more breaths to let the spine have this traction. And again, after the 3rd breath, start to slide the hands under the shoulders. And we're pressing our way back into child pose. Knees can be narrow, knees can be wide. This is personal preference. That's what feels best in our hips or in our spine or wherever else this pose is speaking to. Perhaps a nice way to head toward level 2 is to let the forehead rock on the ground like we're making the sign no. It's like we're telling the universe, no, I don't have to do everything. No, I don't have to be perfect. And whatever level 1, that deepest release possible here looks like or feels like, see if you can connect with that. Let your hands slide in underneath you first, and then you press into the hands to support your back, rising all the way up. Sitting tall. Let yourself rotate over to the right side. Just a brief twist. And rotate over to the left side. Beautiful. Getting off of our feet, we're going to take our block and sit on it. So this can be a different height depending on what's comfortable. It could be tall, medium, or small. And the sitting will be a yogic squat pose. So both feet trying to be flat on the ground in front of us. Make sure knees are not uncomfortable. And so sometimes that means that I just have to slide my feet further away. That'll help my spine release, perhaps. And then find a way to help the hips encouraged to be open. So whether that means that we're simply opening the arms, sometimes that means hands into prayer position, leaning forward just slightly. It's whatever helps your hips to open. And as we're here, with the spine erect, maybe leaning forward, allow yourself to drop the right ear over the right shoulder. And just pause. Find a comfortable way to relax the head back just a little bit. You don't want to crunch the bones all the way to the back, but the head is going slightly behind the shoulder. I usually like to rotate my jaw up a little bit when I go that direction. And then return ear back over shoulder. Now start to tilt the head slightly forward of the shoulder and find a good way to be here. I usually like to turn my nose down. And continue to roll the head slowly all the way down to the heavy hanging spot. Slowly head floats back up. Take a huge breath here. And then left ear begins to drop over left shoulder. Find a way to start bringing the head slightly behind the shoulder. Maybe jaw goes up. And ear back over shoulder. Find the best way to go slightly in front of the shoulder, maybe nose down. And continue to relax the head all the way down, heavy through the center. Start to roll up with the motion of an inhale. It's like we're inflating our head. And then feel that release with your exhale. From here, personal preference, sitting on the block or not, we're going to allow the right leg to reach out to the right. So you're welcome to drop down to the ground if you like, or stay right on that block. The left foot, if you're on the block, can stay planted, or you can tuck it in. From here, start to rotate your body toward the right leg and begin to release toward that direction. Sometimes I'm at a spot where a helpful release would look like having a block under my forehead. So that might be where you're headed. Sometimes the block is too much and I stack my palms a couple of times. So that's an option as well. This is a nice level 1. Notice how deep and intense it is in the body. As our muscles start to relax, that's our invitation to go toward level 2. Sometimes that's a slightly different shape of the body. Sometimes it's just those deeper energetic or breath qualities. find ourselves releasing all the way toward level 1. As we start to rise up, find your hands on the ground, locking in, supporting your spine for the lift. Before heading to the second side, we'll take a cobbler's pose. So if you're sitting on a block at all, go ahead and bump down at least for a moment. The feet don't have to be super close. If you want them to be further, that's beautiful. And just a couple of breaths, letting the spine lift up to try to drop forward and over. Use the initiation of your next inhale, again to help us float up like in a hot air balloon. Starting to fill all the way up with air. Once we're there, we head to the second side, left leg starting to swing it open. Start to turn the torso toward that leg and begin to find a way to release down. That might mean bringing the block right back in. That might not mean that. So find this release. Finding a way to be in level 2, whatever that means. Ultimately heading toward level 1. How calm and present and open can you be? Let's find the ground, and that helps us gently begin to rise. Slide back into another moment with cobbler when you get there. Maybe it's a new foot spot, closer and further. Maybe not. Lift the spine and start draping forward. We'll be here 3 breaths, so see how much presence is available for those 3 breaths. And we float all the way back up. As we get there, the feet slide forward to plant. We can easily prop ourselves up from behind and let both knees fall all the way to the left. And during that internal rotation of the right knee, and then gradually lifting them up, rotate it all the way to the other side. One more time, left. And one more time, right. Beautiful. As we're starting to head onto our back, have your blocks nearby. If you have skinny blocks, you may want 2 of them. If you have the thicker ones, probably just 1 will do. But we start to head down on toward our back. And once we're all the way down, we're going to lift our hips up to slide the block under the hips. You could choose the low height. You could choose a taller height. If you're going taller, that's where usually the skinny blocks would be nice to have multiple. So you've got options you can play with. And here we've got a few minutes, kind of a play time. So I'll start giving you options. As I go through the options, if you find a spot that feels amazing in your body, don't feel like you have to move on. So no pressure to continue to go forward. But the first option is to start sliding the legs long on the ground. What I love about this one is that it pops the muscles out of the hip connection right here. Usually they're tucked clear into the hip bones on the inside. This helps to pop them out and stretches them at the same time. So give them a moment to just stretch out. Finding lots of length. Now this could be the place to stay, even shifting your feet to the sides or any other variations like that. If you're heading up toward a variation of legs up the wall, just legs up the block instead, start to slide your feet back into plant. Now make sure your hips are still balanced very efficiently on the block. They're very solidly placed. And then we'll start to take one knee in toward the chest and maybe the other. This could be a good spot to stop, or maybe legs begin to float upward. They don't have to go all the way straight, personal preference, but try to find the angle that lets them not require so much muscular effort to move. So usually there's one place where they just kind of float. So finding that beautiful place. There are some people for whom plow pose is restorative. So if that's your case, you could continue to lift your hips off the block, sending your toes to the ground past your head. That is an option. No pressure, no saying that you need to do any one shape or another. Just an option if that's what your body needs. And those are our variations. If you feel like you'd like to play with a previous one, feel free to continue to play, continue to move. We'll take about another minute or so. So whatever that means. And maybe there's other slight variations you're adding on to yourself just because your body's telling you that it wants it. And that's beautiful also. Our last 3 breaths right here. And then if our feet are not planted, begin to let them rest down so that we can remove the block. Rolling hips down to the ground. I love to massage on that sacrum after it's been resting on a block. So that could look like windshield wipers. That could look like bringing the knees into the chest and doing those knee circles. It could look like happy baby pose. You're finding a way to help your spine feel so satisfied, so pleased with you. And eventually, when that feels very good, we'll start to head toward our variation of Shavasana today. That could look like legs long, that could look like feet planted so the low back is very flat on the ground. We've got 2 blocks today, so if you're opening back up to cobbler pose, perhaps you're supporting your knee, 1 block under each knee. Any other variations are also welcome. It's whatever feels good and makes us happy today. From here, begin to deepen your inhales. And those lovely exhales. Little movements start to return to the fingers and the toes, the ankles and the wrists. Eventually we're stretching out like we're waking up first thing in the morning. And we find ourselves, when we're ready, rolling over to a beautiful fetal position. Feel your back receiving this pose. And perhaps it tells you, I want to be here. Just a few more breaths. 3 or 4 beautiful breath cycles. So continue to surrender into this wonderful release until your body says, okay, eventually I'm ready to come up to sit. No rush if that still needs a few more breaths. As we're rising up, our hands eventually make their way to the heart. And we simply feel content and grateful for this wonderful release we've discovered here together. We ask our intuition, our mind, our body, what is the one thing I can do this day or this week to help me continue to live in just a little bit deeper release and peace? And just listen to that initial spark that pops up in our mind. And we make that commitment. Yes, I will do that so I can feel this way more often. And so with this knowing to lead us onward, let's wrap up this amazing time we got to share together with the sound of Om. Take a deep inhale now. May we continue to be filled with light and happiness and peace. Namaste.